certified translator. I apologize for any technical issues, glitches that may happen throughout our little talk here. That's the first time I'm doing live, and that means I'm a bit upset about how things are. They take me to the next level of my work. That's gonna be a thing about my recent Indian clients that are relocating to Belarus or who were looking to relocate to Belarus, and they have encountered some certain problems that we are going to discuss today. Briefly about me, while you are arranging your crisps and getting your teas and everything, guys. Hello to India, hello to America. Seems like we are getting some nice global coverage here. Well, I will be doing introductions. You have still some 10-15 minutes to invite your friends or colleagues who may be interested in the subject. Specifically, it's India to Belarus relocation. We'll be talking about the conflict issue, the, let's say, crisis issue of my clients without calling any names. Some of you who have been tracking this thing from starter know that we have taken this to the official level, and until the police statement in your hands clearly says you were dealing with bad guys, we'll just have to show you pictures on the wall, on the graffiti wall back there, and say, yeah, these guys that we're dealing with look this way and they screw people. And why I'm dealing with this, I don't want to sound incorrect or impolite or something, but I have found that my kind of clients from EU, from the US, relocating here are, let's say, easier to make arrangements for and easier to understand culturally than folks from India or Pakistan. On top of this, you may know, if you're in India or Pakistan, that visa paperwork and visa processes are not as simple as they may sound when the two big leaders are meeting and handshaking and everything seems simple in the media. Here on the ground, the offices and officers that are supposed to process this paperwork are not making it easy, and that's why I'm not cooperating with India or Pakistan for now. But with those clients of mine, with my friends, for now I'm not charging them anything but benzene money. And the clients of mine may probably be opening up an office in India, in their country of origin, and facilitate and organize officially the relocation process for the good Indians, so that people seeking to start a new life, maybe go on in their savings here in Belarus, would not lose the last capitals they have, and won't get any stress to dash death kind of situation. So briefly about me, I've been a tour guide for 10 years. I'm passionately in love with my country. I'm not leaving the country no matter what kind of issues we have, and lately we've had some technical issues on the streets, and our economy is not feeling too well, and you understand that the PR of our country is not super good in light of the war next door, I'm unhappy about the war, let's put it this way. The war is a different kind of a discussion, and humans should be more civilized by now and more capable of communicating their interests to each other, rather than throwing grenades and all this heavy stuff that is involved now. So that's the factors in which we are working now. I am now a director of my own company, LLCSIS, which is officially, I repeat, officially relocating people to Belarus, and here we for now second year. And now we're going to talk about the wrong steps that my friends took that got me to this charming live video with you guys. I'm kind of enjoying it. This chat thing is going. I'll be answering questions, so if you have any questions, as long as it's not a technical consultancy of some kind, not a legal advice or anything which I have to take to a lawyer, because as a trained real estate agent I could say a few things about things, but generally deals and more specific things in real estate are discussed by real estate agents I could advise you pretty much on the travel and immigration matters here to Belarus. That's not a problem, and you can use this opportunity, especially if we're talking India. Today we're focusing on this charming, exotic country, which is so close and so far. And what else? What else? Please signal me if the signal is okay, if you can hear me, and if all these things are reaching you, because again, I'm not very good. How to make $1 million in Belarus? Do I look like a guy who makes $1 million US dollars? The question is about dollars, not rubles. Good starting question. I'm on my way to find out. I think I'll be launching this new branch of my business to facilitate business takeovers, because one of the crucial mistakes my client has made is about his 40k investment into a company which was made by his company to a local company, a nice little restaurant, which we will be reporting about very soon. And I guess this charming, he seemed reasonable at our first meeting when we brought in our lawyer, this charming restaurant owner, doesn't realize what kind of issues he's about to get to his business by just saying, no guys, I don't remember you, I don't know you, and you're not gonna get your dividends. This is a joke. So hello to the UK, hello to the province. What's the government and money question, please? Okay, I hope I didn't switch off anything. Signal is fine, that's lovely. Great sound, yes, that's some Chinese headphones. And what else? $1 million we discussed. Work for the government and you make that kind of money. I wouldn't put it that way. The government employees have pretty skinny salaries, and I would hate to discuss corruption on this meeting because I don't run the government of Belarus or the anti-corruption agency. So let's just not talk about the government members in a rough manner, because tomorrow I'm going to the police station with one of the biggest unpleasant crooks that is messing up the things here. Now, the thing that I find very depressing about this case is that I personally was conned by my fellow countrymen, and like I told you in the first video, this fraud thing occurs by countrymen to fellow countrymen. So it's not like Belarusians screwing Chinese guys or something, although this may not be something exceptional, but mostly it's Indians playing games with Indians and so on and so forth. 2 more minutes, guys. We'll say hellos and kisses and everything, and then we'll jump to business. Harmeet, the tea was excellent. See you tomorrow. And what else? I mentioned my official capacity. I mentioned that we may be planning to launch an office in India about official relocation to Belarus, so that people could basically get introduced to the businesses that are actually selling and run a check on the background before they actually buy the bloody businesses, because this is how they would spend a couple of $100s on a lawyer or accountant rather than thousands of dollars for something dysfunctional and unpractical. Oh, by the way, if you push a thanks button with just $1, $2, $5, that would really help to keep the sound and everything on a good level. Thank you very much for doing so. 1 more minute, guys, and we'll start with the case that actually brought us all here. What else? Anything else on the chat that I could provisionally reply to? Something I could enlighten you on before we get to the music. Washington's online. That's kind of first time I'm online with Washington, by the way. It's sweet and nice. Anybody from Daily? Speaking of Daily, by the way, before I forget, the whole thing, information you're gonna hear now is my subjective, biased opinion. It's not a relay of government information of any way, in any kind of and in any way. The things you're gonna hear about are my personal thoughts, and I would always say I'm thinking and I'm guessing, again, before we get a court paper saying that this is a given fact. not to upset the guys we're going to upset pretty much. We will invest a lot of effort in that. I'll be using these expressions. So 10 minutes are out, guys, and let's go through the ladder of, let's say, the challenging ladder or challenging staircase of my clients, let's say, drop, if we can put it this way figuratively. Again, I'm not really laughing or something at my clients who lost about $100,000 so far, because I myself was down by about 50, and that was by a recommended guy, and that's just how it works. That's life. And the idea of this meeting of ours, guys, is to make you ask questions, talk. You never ask, you never get. That's the thing. That's the dominating principle in this country when you're doing business or something. Double check, cross check, save the evidence, and let's start with that. So here is the story. My clients, two nice guys, are coming into Belarus in November. They are invited by a travel agency that facilitates their visas. They're coming on tourism, and that's just enough, as you may know from other channels and sources. Just a girlfriend's question. Or yeah, sensitive stuff is not for the foreigners, of course. If I could find a few phrases that could get me kicked out to the Mediterranean coast or something like this, I would probably say them on air. Anyway, my clients came over here to see the place for real, for live, and they liked the place. They were told there were several concepts about how to get temporary residency. And temporary residency is something we're going to discuss next week, so please don't miss the channel air next week. That will be the same time, maybe 16:15 or something like this. And again, they positively liked Belarus, although in November it doesn't really it doesn't look like Goa or something like this, but they were talking to different dealers here. They were introduced to different people who have blogs, people who don't have blogs, people with shiny business cards. So I like this thing with business cards. If you read the bullshit that they say, it's just awful to any local non-lawyer person. If a lawyer would read those business cards, that would be funny. However, there are different lawyers and they have different skills. So they like the place, and they are about to leave, and they're told of an investment opportunity to buy some village houses. I was getting to that point, but I got distracted by the hellos and questions. Now, it's a rumor, of course. By the packs, the houses that were purchased by the lists, I mean, not one or two houses. Some idiots were buying several houses by the dozen, like eggs. They are now getting TRPs cancelled on them massively. People are losing their TRPs, people are getting kicked out of the country, and there is nothing you can do with this, because this is playing with the government. And this is something I stipulate in every second video of mine, that we're not really here up to doing. We know the rules of the game, and guys, although I admit I may be funny sometimes, immigration is not the field where I would recommend anybody to play. This is why I'm startled by the tricks that our friends here, are conjuring up, taking tens of thousands of dollars and thinking they will get away with this. I doubt it. So my friends like this idea about the village houses, cheap village houses that cost some $10,000 or something like this, and the dealer is offering them like a bulk deal, like 5 or 4 of them or something, 10,000 each. I'm not sure why these guys never check the newspaper. You know, figuratively, there are websites. There is me, for God's sake. For $50, I could just sit you at the table and say, yeah, this is something okay, and this is something smelly about this. Speaking honestly, guys, and I wish to be open with you, I don't mind any kind of competition, and I was referring people from certain regions to certain dealers who were dealing with, let's say, non-EU regions. And I didn't mind that at all, because that's their traffic, that's people they understand, but as it turns out, that's the people they are screwing. And I'm not in line with this, because it's happening in my country, no matter how silly or naive this may sound. So the houses were purchased in a very odd way. Let's start with evaluation. Evaluation of a house has a bunch of factors, and by now, those of you who are watching my channel, by now you basically are old enough to understand what makes a house cheap and what makes a house expensive, be that house or an apartment. People were bluffed with some kind of government program of supporting the village, and their investment in those village properties makes a real great change of some kind, has some prospect of resell. So their idea, as I understand, was to buy them 10,000 each and then to resell them at whatever profit they may harvest. Unrelated question. Let's do the unrelated questions later, guys, okay? That'll be like 20 minutes performance of mine, and then we will be talking all sorts of questions. And today I'm kind of feeling generous, so there may be a consultancy or two on very specific niche things. Maybe not. We'll see how it goes, and we'll see if you find $5 to keep the whole thing going, or $2, whatever. Just for me enough to feel your feedback. A kind word would be just enough. Back to the house thing. So these guys accept a deal about houses, and basically they leave by the time they do that. The deal occurs online, and this is the first fail, I would say. This is the first thing that you really don't want to do unless you trust the dealer, which they did, and unless you are aware of what exact property having what exact value is being purchased in your name, and what this means tax-wise, and what this means further. Because 2 out of 4 properties that I saw after they finally got in touch with me this August are basically unsellable. We will see if we officially can recognize them unlivable, and this is one of the prospects I'm considering. There are several bright, though somewhat thorny paths I'm keeping in mind to chase our friends, and this is one of them. So the other 2 houses are okay, and the properties were purchased by some local guy using power of attorney. This is something I can do. This is something I did for a Moroccan client quite recently. The only problem here is getting the money through. Some countries, as it happens, are just not wiring money to Belarus. Now this thing is kind of tricky, and if you have a non-US dollar account, it may be easier. But again, depending on your country of origin and on your bank of origin, your bank may even confirm to you that, yeah, we have SWIFT to Belarus, but the let's say the transfer is not possible at the moment. We will be resolving this issue with my client now, and I'll be telling you about how it goes next week. Next week I hope we'll find a resolution. So point is, they buy the houses. 4 houses are bought in their name, and January, February they have the paperwork processed by government offices, which is something that takes 2 to 4 weeks, and they become full owners of their residential properties, legitimately offering them a chance to get residency. Residency comes on having a livable residential property, be that house or flat. A little bit about my concept of residential properties. That's a reasonable starting point for all my relocation guys. Very few can afford buying flats, and they either carry enough money or transfer enough money for that. So most of my EU guys are with houses as well. But you know, the concept of some Indian person, and again, I don't mean to be impolite or something, having a house, say, 300 kilometers away from Minsk, and most of the houses purchased by my unfortunate friends are 3 hours drive away from Minsk, and they do not cost $10,000. With the infrastructure they offer, they're just not $10,000 worth each of them, not even rubles. The concept where such a house is 1 hour away from Minsk, a short ride away, maybe by the railway station, costing $10,000 whereabouts, is an absolutely working, acceptable concept culturally, practically, to the migration officers, to the person himself or herself, because they can easily navigate back and forth and with the flow of time develop this place into some kind of a weekend home. if you're thinking to launch some kind of a business, and I guess there's no reason for you, unless you're retired or something, to have business in Minsk, and thinking to go 300 kilometers one way for a weekend stay, that doesn't seem plausible. So for Indian nationals, this is something I highly recommend against. This is something I pretty much don't get involved with. But this time I did. So these houses are there, and the guys paid in crypto to some stranger guy in India, a friend of friend. Guys, here in Belarus, you can of course pay by bank transfer. Crypto payments are, as far as I know, are illegal in Belarus. At least I haven't heard of any official deals, I may be wrong, of crypto being a purchase currency for car or for real estate property. Maybe they scribbled down the equivalent of such and such amount of money was paid, but not something like a crypto to crypto wallet transfer. This is something odd and something I've never heard of. So the money changes hands, except the stranger in India. If something goes wrong, how do you prove that the stranger in India has anything to do with your little transaction thing? I'm told that these crypto wallets are untraceable, they're unnamed, blah, 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 and this is just about confirmations of such and such wallet, getting such and such amount of money that you screenshot, maybe ask the exchange to provide you confirmation. That's it. That's all the evidence that you have. And if that's something you want to go with, risking, guys, I would say this kind of sucks. You know, Pakistani guy, no, I haven't met him yet, no. In fact, there'll be very, very few guys I'll be calling fraudsters today. You've heard why. So let's continue with the deal. So my clients paid off their homes, $10,000 each for each house. They've never seen the properties. They've never seen the owners of the properties. The deal was made by the person sitting in Belarus, operating on power of attorney. There's nothing wrong with someone on the power of attorney handling your matters, except you just have to know it's a reputable guy and there's some kind of references, you know, reputation thing. So that was done for them. So that when they arrived here in May, their houses were here and their papers were here, but the next trick is not a single set of papers contain the purchase sale contract, договор купли-продажи. This is the basic paper in the package that makes the proof of your ownership of the house. So whether or not this was done intentionally, the missing purchase contracts were explained by our friend for the sake of somehow saving clients tax money or something like this. But this is incredible BS, because the tax office has the copy of this contract even before the BTI gives it out to you, printed and sealed and everything. The tax office has a perfect record of all the properties that you sell and buy, and a Belarusian or a tax resident here, I may be wrong in the second case, but still the tax resident in Belarus has the right of selling one flat, one house, one car every 5 years without paying income tax. Second property, like for Belarusians, sold, gets taxed for the income. So this is something that my clients never knew of, and this is something I just discovered on the table, at the table when the papers were laid before me, literally. So then the residency for my clients was processed by this main friend of ours who is not contacting us, and this is something I'm asking him to do because most likely he's watching this air and most likely he's gonna watch the live video later. So I would kindly ask this gentleman who introduced himself as a lawyer to get in touch with us before it gets any more official, and the more official it gets, the less fun it will be for him. He had fancy visiting cards of a legal company. He introduced himself as a lawyer, although his arrival here and his status here is far more humble than that. Most welcome. And the guy said, there was this story about the guy basically consulted them, my clients, to come over here and to bring some papers that that they brought, and some of them were not brought because they were not told to have their, let's say, marriage certificate. Marriage certificate with apostille has to be on the ground so that the man and wife were officially man and wife of the government, and this way they could share one property. So for this trouble, the guy who was introduced to my clients as a lawyer, and he's not, was going to create two companies that would allow the guys to run business. Now, speaking of businesses, obviously, and let's say indecent, incompetent lawyers who say that are not really right. The contact Indian police. Yeah, maybe we will. The point about companies was that you can have these companies cheaply, 2,500 each, including office rental, including account, lawyer support for a year. 2,500 each, and you won't be troubled for a year. This is your like ongoing business. Nobody forces you to have any profit. And guys, this is much more complicated than this when we're talking. Of course, in every office the truth is a little bit different. In Belarus, this is a given fact, but the tax office will care and the migration office will care if guys with your background from your region with a house God knows where will be creating a company that does nothing, and 3 to 6 months after you've kick-started it, you really have to show some traffic. I mean, it has to be a real thing. There's not such thing like creating a company just for the sake of temporary residency. It's rather stupid. Just like a $10,000 house that costs $2,000 3 hours away from Minsk. That's not very reasonable. That's not something I recommend. And this guy actually creates some companies and never gets the final step for the wife cleared, never gets her contract approved of, and takes their papers to the migration office, where again tricks continue. And thanks for the donation, guys, cheers. And they get their temporary residency for 12 months each, except for a little thing. The office, before handing out the stickers, crosses 12 months and writes down 3 months. Mid-October is when they're supposed to get to leave, basically. And with this thing, a very emotional thing for them happened. They could not collect a visa invitation for their son, who is in Canada. I mean, they're pretty well set up people with Canadian visas. They're not ordinary Indians for our government. They are like guys with some status and some travel history. This is a very important part. So if you are a person in India, you haven't been to EU, you don't have any US, UK, hello to the UK, visas in your passport, that's going to be tougher in visa support. And if you only have some $10,000-$20,000 of working capital that must cover your house near Minsk, guys, it's not a very operational idea. That's, mark my words. Anyway, my folks get these companies created, and their residency is based on these companies, apparently, so they think. And it's just 3 months for them. So when we look deeper into the matter, when we're trying to track the steps back and see who said what and who promised what, the papers are by and by collected, the evidence is by and by saved. It turns out that their residencies are not really based on work. They are based, all this bullshit business with companies was a waste of money, because companies are not operational. There's no legal support, there's no accountant, the rent is only paid for 3 years, and who pocketed the margin? Our little boy, as we call him. That's just incredible. So they get these companies created, they're not operational, and their residency is about to expire. Now my question to you guys, many of you are from India, and I'm surprised that many of you just get intimidated and pressed by your reception committee here, that they show you some police lights and police offices, they sound important, blah blah blah, and they tell you that any steps you take left or right from the track that they prescribe, you'll get your ass kicked out. I don't think my friends are that well connected. I hope they're not so well connected, and I pretty much believe that the persons who are seriously relocating to Belarus they just need a translator. It obviously requires a lawyer or an accountant when you set up a business, because a linguist like me, just looking at the bookkeeping stuff, well, I won't be impressed. I don't know much about it. So you need some site specialists, some subject specialists when you're relocating. So one more detail that I recalled: the second time, people who are relocating cannot come on a tourist visa. That's a given fact. My guys came up here on a private invitation, and this private invitation came from the assistant of this unpleasant gentleman that will be probably meeting at the police tomorrow. And my question is, guys, this is another thing to keep in mind. If you're dealing with a serious relocation company, with a serious operator, what kind of serious operator would be using his friend to go to the police station somewhere in the province to generate the... Okay, it's official, but this kind of invitation thing is really, it stinks. The story isn't straight. Why would the company, why would there be no legal company that is actually facilitating your move, your relocation? In my case, there is one. We have contracts, we have things, we have paperwork stacked up, and it goes to the consulate. And both ministries to the highest level know of my operation. I'm not on the first name terms with them. I don't have any connections that high, but they know of the existence and of the operations of my company. So this is something that they didn't really pay attention to, and this is something that the guys out there will pay attention to very soon. What happened next is the investment. Investment in Belarus can be done, as our lawyer explained to us during the meeting with the guys who don't want to pay dividends. Investment is not like dollars on the table and a couple of strange stamps on a strangely worded document that make this guy investor harvesting dividends from the other guy. The money can't change hands, literally. The money must be charged to a bank account if you're investing into a business and you either become a board member, or there is another way. But anyway, the money must be tracked through officially, otherwise this is just BS in horribly large letters. The paper related to this, we have some more wise papers. This is something that we have on hand. Yeah, singer. He's a singer in a way. So anyways, where was we? The dividends. So it looks like we'll have to squeeze out the dividends. Well, we may forget about the dividends, just to focus on collecting the money back from the business. And well, I can't really tell you about how we're going to do this, but I would like to tell you that any economic matters in Belarus are very complicated. I mean, if you have issues with businesses, this goes to economic court, and there is a fee. Normally, I may be mistaken here, in this case it may be a different amount of money, but normally there's a 5% commission in a court case if you're suing somebody for material damage. So somebody who was screwed for 100,000 and this was his last money, this may be, unpractical solution to go to court for months and months and months. There'll be lawyers kind of battling there, countering all the BS back both ways, and that's not going to be very helpful. About investment, there are 3 guys involved, including the charming cafe owner, who is the main brand owner, blah blah. He seems to be very attached to the brand thing. Maybe we'll try to go to the press and convince him that the press releases are better than the court statements. Maybe not. Tell me what you think, guys. Is it best to discuss things privately with lawyers and everything, or is it best to take matters to court and squeeze the bad guys and do whatever damage you can you can on them, and collect whatever last money you can from them in an official way? We'll be happy to hear your verdict. So what else was there? You can ask some questions, by the way. Meanwhile, I'm checking chat and summoning my thoughts, because by now the plot seems to be before you. And best regards to the audience so far. Thank you very much for staying with the channel. Hello. So, as one of the guys said hello, I got this thing about, yeah, he is using the trust of people. It's like my former foreman that built my house and got me 45K down. Yeah, speaking of trust, I've heard that some people are paying for work permit to the businesses that invite them, some kitchen staff and some kind of minor jobs that have very little prospect of being employed here in Belarus, because officially, let's touch upon this subject. Officially, the business that's inviting you is kind of competing with the local labor market. So by and by, this is becoming more and more strict. And if you're looking to open up a business, to launch some LLC or something as a director, obviously, you will be presenting your management confirmation skills, your diplomas, training as a director of some kind. Lawyers will tell you a better story. And the minor employees are basically bribing such businesses, and maybe one of our operators one of our friends is probably doing the same thing. Talk will do not do nothing. Talk will do not do nothing. What do you mean? Sorry, just reading the chat and people are not expressing themselves very well. So the business thing is a bit more complicated than it sounds when they introduced this opportunity to you first. So we took the matter to the police, basically tried to explain ourselves as much as clear as we could, and we pretty much put all the evidence on the table, and the next week we will may probably get you some names. So that's how it's gonna work. While you're summoning your questions, I'll repeat that there are 4 major ways of getting temporary residency in Belarus, and temporary residency is something that gets you here legally, set up legally for more than 90 days in a year, because 90 days is your longest short-term stay on a visa. Furthermore, you have to either think of your employment on a contract here or get residency based on your relatives' temporary residency, based on your residential property ownership application, based on your business ownership, and based on your education. For someone who is not traveling often, for someone who is attached to a specific education course, maybe wants to pick up some Russian, I would recommend to get in touch with the linguistic university directly, ideally, and without using any funny middleman, and get their contract straight and payment and student visa and the student TRP. It's not a super practical solution for those who want to be mobile and have some night hours and some frequent travels, although travels these days are not so frequent, especially not to and from Belarus, a visa thing and everything. There is also an idea of a relative, but not many of you would have relatives here unless you already have someone set up. Son could invite his parents, spouse can invite his son and daughter, and I mean children and spouse. That's natural, normal. The rest of the options are residential property company, spouse. That's it. That's the four major ways of getting residency. So basically the story is like this, and I would like to hear any questions from you guys, anything at all. I'm open to a discussion, and maybe I'll remember a few more things on the way. So if you have any questions, please fire away. International driver's license, as far as I know, and there's a dedicated video about that, the foreigners can drive here. The valid driving license from a foreign country here doesn't necessarily have to be international format. The countries that have signed Vienna Convention on driving license, 1968 thing, if your country is a party to that convention, you don't have to have a translation. If it's not, then you have to have notarized translation here in Belarus confirming that this license is what it is. Do you know this person, Mr. Priyanshu Shah? Yes, I've heard of him. Who is actively promoting Belarus. Yes, I've heard of him, but that's not the question we're gonna discuss today, if you know what I mean. Anyone else? Anything else, guys? I hope I answered the question about the driving license straight. Speaking of driving license, once you get permanent residency, by the way, I forgot one little thing, that lawyer guy, who is not a lawyer, one of our friends, our main friends, the little boy, US national would have to get a translation, notarized translation of the license then. The lawyer guy was promising my friends to get them permanent residency for a pretty horrible amount of money. 40 days after they get temporary residency, and obviously that was not something that was in his capacity to do, and he was stupid enough to leave the written evidence of collecting money. So this is something the cops will be very much working on next week. Permanent residency comes after living here for 5 years. The residency is a serious thing, serious obligation that is granted to you once you prove the government of Belarus that you are sticking around and there's no funny business with tax evasion and stuff like this. So every year, in the range of 5 years, you have to live here for 9 months. And then after you get the permanent residency, you have to think about a driving exam. It's a theoretical driving exam on cards, English cards. Translation is a bit odd, but still readable. And I'll have a client, I'll be supervising a client from EU who's just got his charming ID card. Now they come as green ID cards, permanent residency, not one of those old-fashioned passport-like documents. And we'll tell you how it went. When my client, a couple of months ago now, got a permanent residency through wife, I guess. He was keen to drive a car, because driving a car here after 90 days of getting permanent residency basically is a crime if you don't have a local license, because by law you have to swap them, and you swap them by taking an exam. No driving, just theory. So he brings his Brazilian license to the driving school, driving examinations place. The lady takes it away and then comes back and says, sorry, my validation device is kind of off the charts because it's just a carton piece with plastic on top of it. It's not a protected document. And it also says AE category, which literally here means motorcycle with a cart. That's not a thing that exists, I guess, and that's not a thing that he wishes to drive. He has a wife's car or something. So we go to his place, we collect Mexican driving license, and we come back, and the Mexican license looks kind of nice and shiny, but the validation device just spits it out and says, guys, it's not a driving license. And the driving license says C category, it's a truck. So even if he gets his exam and if he gets a local license with C category, he's gonna be able to drive a goddamn truck, which doesn't seem to have a practical use. So that's about it. Next question, I'm trying to catch up, guys. You can visit visa-free. What's it about? Is it mandatory to go through a travel agent in order to obtain a visa to Belarus? What's your passport, please? What's your agency of application? And I'll be able to tell you about your specific case. And like I said, today I'm generous. If you fire back some $5 in return, I'll be very happy. Travel tour is so confusing, hotel, blah blah blah. Guys, if you knew what kind of things Belarusian passport holders have to face before they apply for a US visa or for a Schengen visa, this Belarusian visa process would seem like a Christmas song to you, because I clearly remember my first Schengen visa. Schengen space, for some of you who don't know of this, is a space of some 30 countries in Europe, 20-30 countries, whatever, that allow you to visit all of them as long as you get one of their members' visa. In my younger years, it was a lot of fun because each country required a different size of picture. The background of your face must be different. Your face must be this much covering the whole goddamn picture. This was just about the picture. And I clearly remember that I had to collect 10 pieces of paper to apply for my first Polish issued shopping Schengen visa. Shopping means that you went there for shopping. And the funny part about it was that in the bus, normally people came there by bus or by car. Polish border control asked, who is here on work, show me work permits, and who is here for shopping, show me your money. So you literally produce a wad of cash out of your pocket, and that's how you got to the blessed democracy. So when you're talking Belarusian visa process is mixed up, you're just dealing with wrong sources. I would just say, before you clarify your country of origin, if you wish to, I would just say that right now Americans can apply for a visa in the Washington embassy barely showing hotel confirmation. However, it's a ruling of the consulate, so it's not something I'm telling you working 100% 24/7. It's just a few cases I talked about, I learned of, and this is something that easily happens, no agents involved. Can't just get an invitation from private citizen. Well, this is not something I recommend if you don't know the citizen, because it may be called a fictitious operation, and that may be asked for both of you. Why you people are using the legend Bapillary, the name with a cheap person? Don't spoil the name of the legend. Okay, people are talking cartoons. Belarusian American, welcome to my blog, by the way. I'm reading comments, but some of them I can't really publish. There are visa-free schemes for traveling here. Yes, now the visa-free thing through Turkey is not very helpful. I guess Russians are jamming some of the stuff. Gold, ladies, and expensive cars for attraction. Yes, this is not some shit that you should be buying if you're a serious investor. It depends on the citizenship of the guy you're sending it for. Yeah, pretty much. So guys, any more visa questions or something like this? Belarusian government will punish everyone. We'll try our best to make this happen. Any more questions, guys? Anything at all about Belarus while you are picking up minds? I would say that so far life here is kind of quiet and okay. Unlike in Russia, you've heard there's mobilization in Russia, which is kind of messy looking thing. I don't want to comment about it. I'm not based in Russia. I don't have any first-hand sources in Russia. So it may not end up too well for them, but there's nothing touching us so far. I regret Belarusian part in the conflict so far, because it has brought us to some considerable pressure from the West. This can be interpreted differently, but I would say the war sucks, and most of you probably will agree with me. To what degree this has been pushed upon by West or not by West, I'm not going to discuss this. I'm not a military expert, guys. I am relocating people to Belarus. Any more questions, perhaps? Stephen Trudeau sounds Canadian. Well, it's my job to make people aware, because this is my stress, to deal with those who weren't aware, and the stress is considerable by now. But it also gains a lot of experience with courts, lawyers, and police, and all this thing. So, part of life, I guess. Pakistani YouTuber about Belarus? No, not really. If you give me Naswar and vodka. No, I don't think I watch that kind of stuff. Vodka is not my kind of drink, honestly. But here locally they have released a 70% proof vodka to kill COVID, to wash your hands, sanitize your hands. And this is the only way I welcome using this drink, mostly. Anything else, guys? Anything you'd like me to battle with? Since somebody mentioned, yeah, I'm also concerned about the reputation of the region, because in the eyes of an officer, an Indian person going through is already like a suspect. Not necessarily as strict as that, but these people would have to prove their intentions are straight to any officer that has dealt with a situation like ours. And obviously the misdealings of bad Indian guys are not helping good Indian guys to set up themselves later. Well, like I told you, the residencies are now being massively cancelled for Indian house owners, and the process is ongoing because most of those properties were bullshit houses, and this is a no thing. Well, let's keep it in play for 5 more minutes, guys. If there are no questions, if there are no things to discuss, then we'll say goodbye to each other for now. Is there a chance that Belarus will be involved directly with war in Ukraine, with Russia, blah, blah, blah? This is important as I'm planning to invest in real estate. I don't think this involvement has any practical value or any practical result that it may bring. I guess it will be more damaging, so Belarus will do its best to delay any such moves as much as they can. So I would also say it's a gamble. So it's your gamble and your call whether or not you wish to see until the war is over. And I have some investment ideas myself that I cannot voice for now because they're being prepared to be voiced. They're being designed. And the general idea of mine, it's very unlikely we are going to step into that conflict hot way. That's about it. I hope I covered that question. They refuse to be reasonable and cooperate. Yeah, we'll make them reasonable because we do have some evidence after all. Any more questions? Anything at all? For now, as you are collecting your thoughts, let's speak about general travel to Belarus. You know about the limitation flight-wise. Just 5 more minutes, guys. If you're tired, then we will be goodbying each other if there are no questions. For travel here is still possible. There's nothing to say that Belarus is closed, locked, blocked, banned or something like this. There is land traffic through the western border, and the only one, Lithuania, Latvia, Poland. You can take a bus, you can fly cheaply to Vilnius, Warsaw, get a visa or get the visa before you take this flight and take a bus into the country. There's no hurdle about it. Many Americans are under impression that travel here is somehow banned. It's not true. The flights are still running. The only ban by Biden is you can't buy a direct flight from America down here. So you have to book 2 separate legs of it, and that's it. Maybe hang about Istanbul for a day or 2. But that's an expensive option, and Americans are no longer visa-free from October last year. So they would have to travel on a visa, and traveling through Russia requires Russian transit visa as far as I know. So this is not a practical way out, not a practical bypass. Your next video, but with names. Well, it's gonna take time for names. My regards to France. A couple more minutes, guys. Anything at all I can help you with, or we'll be bidding goodbyes for now. Welders in Belarus. I don't know much about welders. If that's about recruiting local craftsmen, that's something more niche, something you have to deal with some HR guys. By the way, very nice weather so far. September, October, late October is when it's gonna be a little bit unpleasant, and with some air off. My contacts are under each video. Contacts and donation links are under each videos on my channel. So sometimes people find more my contacts than my donation links, but thanks button, 2 donation links, Patreon, long-term, one-time donations, they all work. Well, some work more than others because some of them are Russian-based, and YouTube thanks button is a universal thing. If you wish to help my channel. I know some guys who are dealing with metal processing, by the way, and if you have anything specific, please send me a message via email. It's underneath the video. If any person comes from Russia with Russian visa in Belarus, if any problems for entry, you need Belarusian also. Yes, you need a Belarusian visa. You may have heard of the Russian-Belarusian visa deal. By road it's not possible, you can only fly. The person traveling to both Russia and Belarus must have both visas, Russian visa and Belarusian visa. They must undergo international passport control, so that's only possible by flight. I hope I answered your question, and this deal is not really working out very soon. Russian visa doesn't help for Belarus and the other way around. One last question. Let's make it reasonable and serious, guys. Canadian citizenship. Post your papers to Washington Embassy and hotel booking should work. From Poland, yes, you can come by car, get a Belarusian visa, it's not a problem. Let's consider it's half of a question, guys. Polish to Belarusian border crossing. Now I'll meet my German client, let's say my best German client, who just drove in from Poland, bringing some shopping for me from EU. I'll talk to him about the traffic, about the crossing, and I'll tell you how it's working out. For now, there's a waiting time of 5 to 10 hours. I have a Slovak relocation guy in the country by car. He managed to get a speed fine. I guess we'll resolve it later. And he said there was some odd waiting time like that. Last question, guys. Let's see what else we haven't covered so far. Next air will be 16 o'clock next Sunday. I hope the time is fitting you, especially in India. And we'll be discussing other things from our first same story. And I'll also run a little update about how things are, covering the news headlines. I might be airing it, I might be covering, making a clip about it, and maybe we'll make questions and answers. Just tell me which format is nice for you to cooperate, to discuss, and we'll just tailor it that way. We may have a house purchase deal during the week, so I'll probably inject some pictures from that into the video. So, no last question? Is it that there is nothing else to discuss? Thanks. Well, thank you all very much for this charming conversation. It seems like it doesn't take too much talent to put the smartphone the right way and deliver the content. I hope I'll see you next week in good health, mostly on my side, of course, and on your side, of course. Wishing you all the best. As my new, how do they call it? As my favorite YouTube hero is saying, love you all, kisses, hugs, and so on and so forth. Cheers. See you later.